Hi, welcome to the channel. I am Summer for those who are new. We are taking this lifeless, non-layered haircut and turning it into a nice haircut with square layers. There are so many benefits to square layers, which I will be explaining all throughout this video and why you might prefer them over the other kind. So let's get started. Okay, so I have got her spritzed down, and what I'm gonna do is the sectioning first. Typically with most of my haircuts, I always come in right at the ear and separate, but because these layers are gonna be a little bit different than my typical round layers, I'm actually gonna do her parting to where the rounding of the head starts. So if I got my comb here is flat, so I'm gonna come and find where it starts rounding more. So we're right about in here, so what I'm gonna do is just take that part and I'm gonna come down to behind the ear, so that way we have a little bit more length here, and I feel like for this purpose with the square layers, it sort of helps set things up better. So I'm gonna clip this out of the way and do the same on the other side, and we are doing a center parting. All right, and now that our sides are done, we're just gonna come right down the middle in the back. And we're gonna clip this out of the way. So we've got 4 total quadrants here, 2 in the back, 2 on the sides, and we're gonna be cutting 1 quadrant at a time. So typically I do round layers where I'm coming out, I'm rounding with the head as I go. You get a lot more movement typically with round layers. Square layers, you're bringing everything up with horizontal partings, where my round layers, they are vertical sections, and these are all going to be horizontal sections, partings, and we're coming straight up to cut. A square layer is going to leave more thickness and length in the back and really kind of all over. So you maintain more thickness, and there's typically a little bit more though of a disconnect at the same time too with a square layer. So I'll be explaining as we cut, and then to make things even more fun, I'm gonna do one side of the head with a blunt line and the other side with a nice point cut, so you guys can see the visual difference and why you would want to do one over the other. And I want you to drop in the comments what cut you think would be better, the blunt cut for the layers or the point cutting. Let me know. So first things first, you would want to determine how short you want the layer to be. Now you want to remember this when either cutting your own hair at home or in salon, is where the length is. Obviously your perimeter is only going to come up so far, so you need to keep that in mind with how short you go. You don't want, like, let's say this hair length. You don't need a layer with this length that like starts, you know, here. You want it to be a little bit longer to flow. So we are gonna have our layer be long enough that you can still get everything back, but you'll still see some movement. So we're gonna come right across the top to set our guide. So we've got a horizontal line here. And what you'd want to do to set your guide almost is visually kind of bring it down and take note of how much length that is. So we're removing about, I'd say that's like 2.5 inches. And then what we're going to do is comb directly straight up. And this side I'm going to be doing a blunt cut, and the other side I'll be point cutting into it. So come straight up and cut. You're gonna let that fall, see where it's lying. I'm gonna bring it up just a tiny, tiny bit more. And then what you'd wanna do is grab your next parting. Straight across. Again, we're doing horizontal. Everything is coming straight up to create that square shape. I easily can see my guide here. And again, I'm using the fine side of that comb. So another nice thing too about square layers is they're really easy to cut. They are not time consuming typically. And if you're cutting on your own at home, they're actually super easy. 9 times out of 10, if I'm cutting my own hair at the house, I will do a square layer like this. I've done round before, like when I wanted more movement, but a round layer is much harder to achieve on your own, where a square layer is a lot easier. So you'll just keep pulling up until you have nothing left to cut, which that, I barely had anything, and then this piece isn't even gonna come up at all. So we have that side done now. So again, this left side, I'm doing blunt lines, and the right side, I'm gonna be cutting into it to soften it more, so that way you guys can see visually the difference. So we're gonna actually just clip this back out of the way because we don't need it. We're gonna let this out, and what we're gonna do is take a section from our guide here and take our first parting, fine side of that comb straight up. I'm standing directly in front of the client. I see my guide here, cut. Actually, I forgot I'm point cutting. Not even following my own rules here. So if you can already notice when I'm cutting this as a point cut, it'll keep it softer because you're going in and out. So the term for that is like you're keeping peaks and valleys because it's not a hard line straight across. And you're just going straight across as you grab each next section, small enough too that you can see the guide. If somebody has really fine, thin hair, you can take bigger sections. But for thicker hair types, you wanna definitely take a smaller section. That way you're cutting even. And this piece, not even coming up. So we're already done with the back. Super easy, super quick. Again, this is why this is like a nice, easy favorite haircut of mine to do on myself when I'm wanting layers. And then we're gonna come in to our first side. So I'm gonna let that out, and we're still gonna be doing horizontal layers going across the head, bringing everything straight up. So we're gonna take our guide from our back and take our first section here. And we're gonna be coming straight up. You could even break this in half if you wanted to, just because we have a little bit more hair here to work with. Coming straight up with it. I see my guide from that back section, and I'm gonna remain cutting into a point cut for this right side of the head. And this, we're not angling forward with it. We're literally just coming straight up. Everything comes straight up from the head. You're not going forward, you're not going back, straight up. And I like to use the fine side of my comb to have nice tension. I always enjoy doing square layers too, because for one, they're just something different, you know, than doing the same old, same old. and they're easier. That's for one. If that's what the person wants, I should say. So like I said before, they're nice for somebody who wants to maintain more thickness throughout their hair overall, but they want a little bit of movement. So this gives you just enough layers so you have some shape. But again, because everything's coming up, you're really maintaining all your weight down here. You're not jeopardizing it whatsoever. And as you get further down on the side here, I try not to over direct it back to the center. You do still want to try to come straight out from the area of the head here. So don't pull toward yourself. If you do it, don't freak out. It's not the end of the world, but you do want to maintain coming straight out from the section you're grabbing. And that's gonna be that for that side. And then we're gonna finish off here on the left. And again, this is gonna be a blunt line so you guys can see the difference. And then at this point, you can take from the back if you wanted to. Granted, because one side is point cutted, one side's gonna be blunt. I am gonna take from the back, but if you were cutting everything even, you would just take your section that you already cut here and match it up to your other side. But I'm making things fun and difficult today. So we're gonna take from that back piece again to start our guide for the sides. Okay, so you're gonna take from your top section here, and again, we're coming straight across horizontally. We're gonna break this in half. Actually turn her like that. There we go. Went and repositioned her. Coming straight up, look for that guide in the back. You see it right here, cut. And then I will be showing you guys too how you would blend in these front layers that you're creating. And then, as always, I'm using my shark fin shears. These are my shears that I always use. These are 6.5 inch, 6.25 inch, one of those two, so not too long. And I will leave them linked below along with a promotional code that you guys can put in if you're in need. So you get a free pair of thinning shears with them as well as a razor. And this will probably be our last section to pull up. So again, you're just coming straight up. Couple rando hairs. And this guy's not coming up at all. Okay, so what you wanna do now before you go into drying it, I'm gonna spritz it back down because you want nice saturation with your hair. To even out your front face frame, you're gonna kind of create it similar to what you would do with a regular face frame. You're gonna come in and find where your layer is in the front, right along the face. And you're just gonna blend it in. So we're coming down. I see my shorter hair in here, and we are just gonna cut into that. So this blends it in and you don't have to remove a lot at all. It just creates a nice softer line. And we'll do the same over here. We're gonna make our points meet. Actually doing square layers like this actually sets up your face frame, again, especially if you're doing this at home, to be like super easy because you have your length already made. You pretty much have the front piece is the shortest you would want it to be, and all you're doing is just filling in that middle. So you've kind of already got your guides set for you along the top and the bottom, and you're just connecting them. So I'm gonna really quick just zoom over her perimeter. I didn't really cut that. I did the other day when I was prepping her hair because I colored it, but I'll wait till it's dry. But you would obviously wanna like cut your perimeter on your client if you needed to. But that's what's also nice about square layers is because you're not touching the length. If somebody's like, well, I want layers, but I don't want my length touched, square layers are the surest way to go ahead and give them some shape and movement, and you know you will not compromise those ends at all. So I'm gonna get her blown out quickly here, and then I will show you what it looks like dry, and we'll do some dry cutting. And then the product I'm gonna be using is Redken's Big Blowout. This is just a nice overall blow dry gel. It gives you heat protection and a little other benefits. And I'm just gonna put this all through her hair, and then I'm gonna dry her with my Time-O Air Hype. Okay, we have got her finished. She's dried and styled. And one thing that is really nice about square layers is that like 9 times out of 10, you really don't even have to go in and do any dry cutting because it blends so well. I did do the one side of her head, more of a point cut style. I don't know that visually it's gonna turn up as much as I was hoping for you guys, but this is the side I did the point cutting. It's just a nice soft flow everywhere. It just flows back nicely. And then this other side, I did the blunt cutting. So I can tell that the blunt side has a little bit more definition to it. I don't wanna call it choppy, but it definitely has just a slight, maybe like an edge to it would be a good way to describe it. It still flows, but you see a little bit more thickness to it versus on the point cutting side. It has a nice flow, but it's a much softer look, but still nice movement and shape everywhere. And yeah, this is just a nice, easy haircut. So I'll do a final spin so you guys can see, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, here we have our finish and final look, creating those square layers all through the head. So we have nice movement in the back with the sides, blending everything in. You can never go wrong with these type of layers. Remember, you're gonna bring everything directly up with those horizontal lines. Don't overthink it. You can blunt cut or point cut, whichever you prefer, and always take good sections. I will see you guys next time.